primarily by three forces, and the first is the coming of immigrants and in record numbers, beginning in the 1980s nationally, hitting Utah about the 1990s, a huge wave of immigration. And again, who is it that moves long distances? And these are people who are young, and we notice that young people are the ones who have children. So this brings down the median age, it increases the size of the population, and this wave of immigration, in contrast to the one at the beginning of the 20th century, people are coming from all over the world. Yesterday, the Census Bureau released some data showing that the number of people born in Africa living in the United States has increased by several-fold over the last couple of decades. And in Utah, too. I mean, think about Black or African American. If you're African, how do you look at that race question? Doesn't fit, doesn't make sense. But literally, people from all over the world and in large numbers. And the second is the aging of the baby boom population. I'm guilty. We were so homogenous in such a large group, born between 1946 and 64, an absolutely enormous demographic, so homogenous, native-born, English-speaking, mostly Christian, had such similar cultural experiences. Of course, there have always been communities of color and ethnic groups besides us, but just to give you an idea, we were so homogenous, we all learned from the same books. So now it's a test to see who's a baby boomer. Who knows who Dick and Jane and Sally and Spot and Puff? That was our reader that we learned from. Can you imagine the same curriculum deployed for every child today? Not the case. And of course, life expectancy is increasing, but we are getting older, and in the same way that we brought down the median age when we were young, we are dragging the median age up, and there are a lot of us old white people. And then we've got the fertility rate of the new people. Now, I showed you how native-born people are having smaller families. A lot of the new populations that have come, and they're still very deeply embedded in their cultures, are really valuing children, and then in their cultures, they're still having lots of children, large household sizes. So isn't it ironic and interesting that as we see the signature Utah demographics evaporating among the white, not Hispanic population, that it is in fact these new diverse populations who are keeping the fertility rate up, who are keeping the household sizes up, and who are responsible for a large percentage of the growth of the population in our state and city. You probably know that if not for the coming of the immigrants and their having children, that the Salt Lake City population would have declined. There are a whole swath of the northern part of Salt Lake County. The population would have declined if not for the coming of the immigrants and their having had children. About 20% of the population growth of our state between 1990 and 2010 is the coming of immigrants. Another, depending upon how you do the math, 5 to 10 percentage point of the growth, so up to about a third of the state's growth, is not only the immigrants, but their children. And so the state would have had a smaller, older, smaller household size, lower fertility rate in the absence of the coming of the immigrants. So here's what we've got going on before our very eyes. And as a person who moved here in 1986, an amazing transformation to see. The state becoming more multicultural, multilingual, and of course as the old white baby boomers, we begin to die out, the minority-majority population becomes majority, and we become more multilingual, more internationally connected, more ethnically diverse. This is Utah. And of course this is an incredible generational shift. If you talk to people my age or older, they can completely miss it and not understand why these times call for such different planning and programming and infrastructure and all the rest. This is truly a game changer. These kids have completely different experiences, and by the way, the economy has changed significantly too. This was a high-wage recession and a low-wage recovery, and calls for, I believe, new priorities in industrial policies, which I'll return to in a few minutes, which include green infrastructure.